Hi everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How are you? I hope you are well here, beginning the day of our knees. And just to begin today, leaving behind the topic of appearances, if you look that I am wearing the same t-shirt, so yes, I didn't take a shower. I'm alone, nobody's pushing me, I'm quiet, fine, so I don't care. I'm just saying that just in case you see me that I am wearing the same clothes every day this next week, so don't worry, okay? I'm fine. Today I just forgot the topic, sorry. It is communion. Communion, the common union. So let's talk about this topic. What is communion? Today in this hotel we have a lot of communion because we have two weddings today. Two weddings. One at each side of the hotel. So I think it's a very easy topic today. So communion comes from two words, that is common and union. Common comes from como, which is a way of saying the way, the way in which you do things, like, which is like a way of doing things, and union that comes from uno, meaning one. So it's easy to understand. One way. So we have here that communion is basically only one way of doing the things. That would be a communion. So acknowledging that that the unity, the way of being one, the concept of communion, this comes from the time when a lot of people from different point of views got together to look for one way of doing the things. So they sat down and they decided to how to connect their different ways and to put them together so they could do only one thing. So we can tell from communion that it's not something human, it's something from nature. All in nature has the same thing. We can find communion in trees and fungus in the nature world. We can find how fungi, the world of fungi, helps the plants to nourish the roots so they grow stronger. We can find this communion in between the insects and the plants, that they take the insects take what they need from the plants, and the plants use the insects to make pollination. Also, when we watch the animals, they create this communion in the herds that they share to one another. So many types of communion we can see in nature. It's all about that. It's all about this symbiosis in nature that we can create, that we can do all the things that we do. So as you see, communion is not something from religion or something from society of humanity. is a very natural thing in all the realms, for all the realms that share one common goal, that unite them in a goal, a specific objective. So acknowledging this from nature, we will now understand very well why humans we use the word communion very much in our cultures. When we try to see the point of view of humans according to communion, we have to remember that we humans come from mammals. We are mammals that live in herds. We are hominids. So throughout our history, we organize ourselves in herds, and these herds started to be called also a clan and a family. So we started to get together to take care to one another. So we are all safe and one. So in order to do that, we had to find different tools that helps us to identify to each other. So symbolisms, words, colors, stuff that we all could share and we all could understand that if we see those things, we belong to that. So a family, a clan, a herd use these symbols in order to find themselves secure. So if you see that, you know, oh, I'm safe because I am part of this. Okay. So along history, what we started to do with this communitary concept of unity is that we started to find ways in which the different individuals can be attached and connected to only one concept. This was helpful because that made us belong to something. That made us feel part of something. So that's why if we saw the same colors, the same symbols, we could belong. We could know that it's safe to be in this group. So this concept of a common way of doing things created the idea that all these kind of different individuals, they are one. They are not different beings that you have to call by their own name, but they are only one being altogether. And this created the idea of being one as a family, being one as a clan, and also created the idea of cultures, of nationalisms, in which you can kind of share the same things, the same ways of doing something with many others. It doesn't matter if it's just 2 people or 1,000 people, they can share the same thing and be called as one. So for example, when you speak about the nervous system, okay, so you have millions of cells that are called neurons, that each one of them administrate a kind of information, but all of them together are called the nerve system or the brain. So it's much more easy to say the brain than to name each one of the neurons, of course. So it would be impossible. So the same thing happened when we say, for example, I am an Argentinian. So I can say who I am, but when I say Argentinian, you kind of can think about a common concept of what an Argentinian is. So you say an Argentinian, like a whole concept, okay, like one being. So that's what communion is when different individuals get together to share one way of doing things. So that way is much more stronger than it was before when everyone was separated. So throughout history, the first thing that happened with this communion is a community. From the families, from the clans, a community is born. So when a community is born, it is because different individuals, they get together to share their work, to share their ideas, their food, to share the place where they live. They start to share different attributes in order to have the same common goal, which is to survive, to feel, to be happy, to live as long as they can. So it would be only one object that they all share as a community. So once we have this community, eventually humanity starts to spread and get wider. So these different communities, they have to get together and they create something new, a transcendental from each one of the communities, because they have a lot of them spread around. So what they create is what we call a nation. A nation is basically something that connects many communities in only one topic, in only one union. So all of them are born from the same topic. For us today, it's easy to say, for example, that something that creates a nation is the Day of Independence. But that's really a very new point of view. In the ancient times, a nation was not born because of a Day of Independence. A nation was born because they shared the same language or the same land, or they were sharing a common history, or a war. I don't know, something that happened for all of them together that they can relate to as one, as the same origin. So that was the birth of a nation. Nation means birth, the birth of something bigger, greater. Okay, so that's the etymology of the word. So that's how it begins. So if a community is a group of people that are bound together as one, so a nation is a conjunction of communities that they get together as one. So a nation can be united by different political systems. Like, for example, a kingdom can unite a nation, an empire can unite a nation, the dictatorship, democracy, a republic. Any system can unite a nation. So in the first time, these communities, this communion, was divided to protect the individuals of each group. So, for example, we have the community A that they were dressed as red, and the community B that were dressed as blue. If the individuals would mix, they would know which law was applied to each one of them. So they would know where they could be safe. So the same thing happened with the nations according to the flags. A different colors, a different flag was useful to understand in which community you are born with, so which laws and which system would apply to you and where do you feel safe. So we have to remember that this is the concept of how flags and countries and nations and colors that divide us were born. Okay, from our point of view today, it doesn't make any sense. It's like weird, and why they separate us and so on. But this is because we are already in this lifetime right now. We are becoming aware that this is not really necessary, because we are transcending this in globalization. We are all together, united, and it doesn't really matter now. So we are transcending these topics. But in the first time, in the very ancient time, this was something really useful, because if you step in a place that you should not walk through, the other ones could kill you because you were a threat for them. So when you see when you would see the same colors that you were born with, or these kind of things, the same words, the same ceremonies or whatever, so you can feel protected. You feel that you are home, you are safe. Okay, so it was really useful um, it was really useful in the beginnings, in the first times, in order to feel safe, to be part of something. We had different ways to understand these communions, these communities. We could say that the first communities were created to protect themselves from others, but eventually some of these communities started to grow and grow. So they took another point of view, not to protect the ones that were in the family, but to invade and to provoke the others to be part of their family. So that was the really great problem, that instead of taking care of your own, you thought that we thought that uh, we were the best ones, so everyone should be like us. So that's why they started to expand, and as many they were, much more unity, they took the flags or the symbolisms, the symbols, to take power over the others. This was basically the basements of every country that exists today. So these kind of communities created all the countries that we have today. This system was the basement that created all the countries um, that we have today. And this is how we started to create the concept of nationalisms. Nationalisms were movements that tried to push many individuals as possible to have a common idea of what it is to be, so they could be much more stronger in front of the other ones, and to separate and to identify who we are in front of others. So basically, nationalism was something really good at first time, because it helped um, to people to feel safe in the time when they were creating the countries. So it was really good for that. But eventually, nationalism became a kind of a cult in which people couldn't be different. Otherwise, there would be like a judgment to acknowledge, to know who, if you belong to the group, or if you deserve to die or to be expelled from the group. Today, nationalisms are something really wrong for our planet, because it creates the false idea that we have to be united and defend ourselves from someone. And nationalisms are really easy to handle, to manipulate by symbolisms. For example, I cannot speak about nationalisms from other countries because I didn't live the history of other countries, but I can tell from my own country, Argentina. In Argentina, we have a history of a community that was forced to be Argentinian. The original people from the territory was forced to be named as Argentinians, were forced to be called Argentinians, even if they were not, because they were native from their own regions. And the rest of the country, in the late 800s, where they came in boats from Europe, and they were forced to be called Argentinians. They were forced to create the idea of a nation that wasn't existing, that it didn't exist. Argentina was just an idea of a few people, and the rest of the people were forced to be called Argentinians. So they brainwashed all the people in order to become Argentinian, for example. And we have been so brainwashed that all the nation, all the people in Argentina used to say that we have been colonized by the European people. And I've been not colonized by European people, because I am European. You can see my green eyes, my white skin. I am from Europe. So the only thing is that just my grandfather came and took some land, and I was born there. But I was born in a territory that someone called Argentina, but the people that used to live there were not Argentinians. So just a tiny part of our country today, the native people, they were not Argentinians. They are the only ones that were living there, actually. And they were forced to be inside a country called Argentina. And we, from Europe, were forced to become Argentinians with an ideal that we are part of a nation that didn't exist. So nationalisms used to put us into the same box of an ideology, even using symbolisms and so on against other countries that we have no problem with. So it doesn't have any sense. It might have had a temporary use and goal, but now it doesn't have that meaning anymore. So other thing that nationalisms used to do is to create false problems that doesn't affect anyone of us, but they create these kind of conflicts in order to unify a nation that is breaking up or taking a different course, because some people are afraid of new things, of transforming into new things. So they create false conflicts in order to create fear that attach and unify the nation against something from the outside. And nationalisms used to do this a lot. We have seen this, for example, in the States, where Donald Trump was creating false enemies in the outside and even inside the country, trying to unify population on someone. Okay, to unify it as one, the nation. The same thing happened in Germany in the 30s. So this happened many times, all the time, creating false conflicts in order to create nationalisms that unify the countries that are breaking up. And it always has to be about creating a false and outer enemy. So, for example, today we have COVID, and everyone is talking about COVID and COVID and COVID and all these conflicts, but there's no terrorism anymore. What happened with the terrorism? Like, it is not that there is no terrorism or that someone invented terrorism. Of course there are, but there has been a lower in terrorism because there is no much ability or allowing much more terrorism. These kind of things. So again, coming back to my country as an example, sometimes historically, some of the things that happen can also create distortions in our own ideas. For example, I don't know if you know the story, but for sure you have heard about the Falkland Islands and the war with England. And those islands, the Falkland Islands, I'm sorry for those who believe that they are Argentinians, but those islands were never Argentinian. In history, never. And sometimes people used to say, but they are in our territory. If they are in our territory, so we can also reclaim Chile, we can reclaim Uruguay, Paraguay, we can reclaim all South America if we want, because it's in our territory. So it doesn't make any sense historically for Argentinians to reclaim a land that it was not ours. Never in history. So this created from the war, since the war, it created an idea that we people in Argentina has to be against the English people, the British, because they took a land that was ours, and this kind of things, and everyone thinks that they are ours. So it creates a common idea that brainwashed the history and that makes us believe some stuff that never happened, really. And that is one of the things that makes communion something wrong in our daily times. And if we want to talk about communion in a very deeper way, we have to go now to religion. Religion is one of the greatest communion that has been created in history, because many of the symbolisms of religion has gone throughout borders. They went out of the countries. Like, for example, Christianism has gone through all the entire Roman countries in Europe, and the Islam has gone through all Northern African and Asia countries. So it is spread beyond the limits. So it's much stronger communion than others. The communion in our religion was because there should be something greater that unites us all, God. So the idea of being brothers and sisters under the eyes of God is something that united much more people besides the nations. So the reason why the communion is much stronger in religion is because the nations are born in the past, are born in history, but we all are going to die. So we all are looking towards the future, and faith is talking to us about what is coming next. So that's why religions are much more stronger in communions, because they are thinking about what is going to happen after death. So this idea of communion is born in the sense, this concept of communion is related to the sense of belonging to something, to someone. Because to belong to something makes us feel secure. It's something from nature, it's something very old. It's not only human. Communion is something that brings us the idea, the sense of belonging to a group, to a religion, to a culture, to a nation, to a conscience. It is about belonging somewhere to feel secure, safe. And this is something that takes us to look for symbols that can unite us, ideas that can unite us. The concept of creating symbols that can unite topics and information is very natural in humans, in our humanity. Por ejemplo, so symbols like this, like the symbol that I did for the yo soy, the I am path, are symbols that helps us to make a summary in just an image of all the concepts and a lot of information that we could not explain, but we can share just by looking at it. And also, we can relate to the others, to the people, when we connect with them. When we see that the other one has the symbol, we can feel connected and know who to talk to and what to talk to or about. So the conflict here is not the symbol itself. Symbols are good, are information. The conflict here is believing that I belong to that symbol, is to feel attached to that symbol. So, for example, I can wear the cross, the Christian cross, and maybe it's because I can relate to others with the same religion, but I can also be open to others. I can also be open to different points of view and to different philosophies in life. The real conflict here is when we use the symbols with fear, feeling afraid of not being part of something. Symbols, flags, colors, histories, nations, traditions, cultures, countries, they all are symbols, information, data that summarize many things. But just that. We cannot feel attached to that. We cannot say, I belong to that symbol. Otherwise, we are not free. We are not ourselves. They are just information. We cannot live our lives through those codes. We just can use them for something, to relate with the others. But that's it. So the sentence that Am said to me today, I guess it's really clear for this. We have to leave behind the sense of a belonging, of a pertinence, and to have a sense, a meaning. So it's not that we are looking for belong to something. That's very animal, very mammal. We are looking to survive, belonging to something. So what we have to discover is that inside of us, we already belong. And from there, find a meaning, a sense. So, for example, what we are doing here, the main idea of this is for you not to belong to this network of the I am. It's not that after all this, you still belong and you say, I am part of this network of the I am. No. The main idea of this is for you to use the I am and to belong to yourself. Not to anything outside. Actually, in the age of Aquarius, we will be giving much more to others, belonging to ourselves, than belonging to a network. So this is one of the things that we have to work very inside with ourselves. The vibration for today is 2. The statement today is I am energy of manifestation. The quote today is love and rage. One of the most known bipolarities in the human world is the one that lays in the heartbeat. Its vibration irradiates the positive and negative waves that draw the most expanded emotion. In its positive aspect, love, that means eternity, and implies the ability of not having limits when feeling, without conditions or dependencies. Love is the emotion of freedom and acceptance. Meanwhile, rage is the other side of love, where there are conditions, where it's not accepted the other one's freedom, and that imprisons me too. In this emotion, everything is limited. Remember that one of the most important communions that must be given in our life is the one between the I and am. Sit comfortable, close your eyes, and concentrate in your breathings. I take a deep breath. I become aware of the place I find myself in. I become aware of the country and the city where I am. I take a moment to feel, to perceive what sensations I receive, acknowledging in which country I find myself in. Feel the body, how it feels here. Try to move every joint, every part of the body softly, your head in circles, recognizing how do you feel in this position. And I make the question, do I belong to this place? I take a deep breath and I try to think, to feel to which country I belong, which city I belong, to which space I belong. I try to think about the people that is around me in this place and think if you belong to these people, and if not, take a deep breath, bring into you the people where you belong. I unify here all the people that corresponds to me in the place where I belong. And I become aware of this here and now. Is here where I find the communion between I and am. And in this connection, I realize that I don't belong to any place and to anybody. For the only reason I can feel that I am fine in this place with these people is the inner connection of this communion of I and am. And it's from here where I can feel complete. I imagine that I hear myself, I am the ego, and in front of me I can see the am, the essence, and everything that is around me, the place, the people, are just a reminder that I and am are the only possible and real communion in my life. Yo soy aquí y ahora. Yo soy en este mundo. Here and now. I am in this world without belonging to it. And it's from this communion from which I really can manifest. I extend my hands, receiving the hand of I and am, sealing here the communion between myself. I take a deep breath and activate it. I am the energy of manifestation. I am the energy of manifestation. I am the energy of manifestation. I think, I think, I think. And this is my communion. I am. Inspiro profundo. I take a deep breath, and each one at its own time. Come back here and now. Thank you everybody for being here another day. And as always, see you tomorrow at the same time.